Welcome to Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth, where we dive into all subjects that will help you become healthier and happier. As a dentist, I believe dentistry is more than just teeth, so I created this show to focus on overall health. We will hear from leading experts about eating better, exercising better, breathing better, and sleeping better. We want to help you create harmony in your life so you can live your life to the fullest. We want you to thrive. Hello and welcome to Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth. I'm your host, Dr. Hal Stewart. So glad you're with us today. You know, in life, it's so, we all have bad days and good days. We all go through times in our life where we're just handed, lemons, and some people just wallow in the lemons and other people make lemonade out of the lemons. So great inspirational stories, I think, are very important for many reasons, because for those people who have conquered things that they never thought they could conquer, they hear an inspirational story and it just makes them want to do more. And for those that feel like, the world is against them and they're just on their last leg, and they hear an inspirational story, maybe it's somebody telling a story, maybe they were in the same position. And so I think that when I meet someone and everybody has a great story. I really think that everybody walking around has something valuable to offer. But there are some people that just, have conquered things against all odds. And those type of stories, I think, are amazing because we can glean so much from that. So our guest today is a good friend of mine, Vicki Johnson, and she has an incredible story. So I'd just like to introduce her. Vicki, welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you today.
Good to be here.
Vicki is a trainer at the gym at which I train. What did you change the name when you moved to is it still?
Yes.
Okay. What's the name of your gym now?
It's called Outlaw Fit Camp by Jesse James.
Okay, Outlaw Fit Camp by Jesse James, and it's in the beautiful city of Flower. That's still Flower Mound.
Yes,
Yes,
still
it's in
Flower
Flower
Mound.
Mound, Texas. They just moved to a new facility yesterday, and I was supposed to train, and I had to miss. So that's my bad. But they did change the name. It's a beautiful facility, and Vicki is a huge part of it. Vicki has been training there ever since I've been training there. So Vicki, where did you get your you go through a certification process to be a personal trainer? And
Yes.
okay, what do you do? I mean, is that something that that you do that online, or did you go to a training facility to do that, or how does that
I did
work?
my studies online. I first got certified through Fit Tour and realized I needed more in-depth, so I chose NASM. So I did that one. It took me about 4 months. It's self-paced. You got a year to do it. But they're very, very, very strict.
Yeah.
Like, it's very detailed. The testing was hard. I admit it. I failed it twice. I did. But it's good, though, because I had to keep re-going over stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of, kinesiology stuff. And
Right.
not just, pushing weights. You got to,
Right.
muscle parts and, know some stuff. So.
Well, and that's one of the things that I'm so thankful that I got involved with Outlaw Fit Camp by Jesse, because I had played college football. I had multiple shoulder injuries, and I just had always just kind of bulled my way through bench presses and military presses and developing the big muscles. But when I came to Jesse James and started working out there, we started training all the smaller minor muscles, but they all add up, for good bodily harmony. And so I think that anybody that really wants to get fit and in shape should have a coach. And that's exactly what Vicki does. So that's not what we have her on today, although I do want to get back to that. But before we go any further, Vicki has an incredible story. She's now a successful personal trainer. She has lots of clients. But you weren't always in the position where you could train people, were you? Or even train yourself.
Correct.
So tell us your story. Let's go back. How many years would you say your this odyssey you've been on began?
My life-changing story started in '99 when I was hit, but my fitness journey started in 2011.
Okay, so let's go back to 1999. You were in a major accident.
Yes, I was hit by a drunk driver head on. They calculated it going about 140. It'd be like hitting a brick wall, about 140 miles an hour.
Wow.
The driver was killed instantly. He was clearly intoxicated. The passenger that was with him basically walked away. I had my son with me. In the
Was
wreck,
your son injured?
yes. He wasn't as injured as badly as me. He had a broken leg, fractured thumb, and a concussion. He was very, very lucky. He was able to leave the hospital in 3 days. I, on the other hand, suffered massive injuries. My left leg was severed in the wreck. My right leg, the door had to open when the car was spinning and slammed on my ankle. So my leg was trapped in the door. Time we quit spinning, I was facing the back of the driver's seat. So the seatbelt had broke, steering wheel broke off. The dash cover underneath the gearbox is what came down and severed off my leg. It had popped down and severed off my left leg. So that was laying
Was your
across
left
my
leg completely severed?
Yes.
Wow.
So I was actually in a first aid van because I was selling first aid at the time. So I was very lucky to have equipment on my van at the time. So I had gloves right there. I immediately put gloves on and started working on myself. After I assessed my son, the lady who was behind me and the trooper went over to keep him occupied. I was like, I don't want him looking at me because I realized how bad it was. So I had medicine packets down in my legs. I mean, debris. So first thing, you do when you kick into survival mode is, what am I supposed to do? So stop the bleeding, started pulling objects out to try and keep it as clean and sterile as possible. Yeah. When the first paramedic showed up, he got in and was trying to hold the leg together so we can keep some blood flow going so the limb wouldn't die. I was pretty much thought it was gone. It took about a little over 2 hours for them to get me cut out of the car. Actually, it was a van. But in the process, they had called out 3 care flights. First one they ended up canceling because the driver of the other car was deceased. They canceled another care flight. I wasn't quite sure why they canceled that one, and then mine was on standby, and they canceled mine because they told me I wouldn't make it. So that kind of alerted me. I knew that I was in bad shape, and this had been about an hour. I was never passed out. I was able to call my husband at the time and told him I was in an accident, so he drove up. He was in Louisville. This was 2 miles east of Decatur. So he drove up. But before he could get there, when they were talking to the hospital on the open mic, they realized how serious it was. And I basically asked them, I said, am I going to make it or not? Because I knew a lot about first aid. And paramedic basically told me, no, I was not going to make it. So,
would they just think you were bleeding? You were going to bleed out?
Yeah, I was bleeding bad. So he said if there was anything I wanted to tell my family, that he would write it down, and he did. He was amazing. They were having trouble getting me out of the car. So when they canceled my care flight, that kind of set in. I thought, okay, this is it, so I didn't panic. They were trying to start an IV in me. Couldn't get the IV started. They said it was all the damage, the blood loss. So when they finally decided they were going to cut me out, that took about another hour. But time they got it all said and done, they said I would not last the flight from where I was at to any hospital that could, with a huge trauma center, either Parkland or Baylor. So they decided to take me to Wise County, at least get me there and get me stabilized if they could. So when I got there, they got me pretty much stabilized. I had Baylor and Parkland on the line. And at the time, there was a doctor in town. I believe his name was Reinhardt. And he was doing a speech at Parkland. So he came on and said, send her here. So he helped assist the Parkland trauma team. He stayed for a while. I was in ICU for almost a week on a ventilator. Then they moved me to a regular floor, the trauma floor, just to keep an eye on me after I came out of ICU. I guess then when I was in ICU, I'd almost passed away. The life support system had clogged. And they were unaware of it, so actually my mom's best friend was there, and she worked for the state school, knew the signs, and so she actually administered suctioning it out before they even came in. So wow. It was a good thing she was there, because sure no alarms went off. They would have never known. So that was another blessing. Yeah. I was just like, I didn't know it at the time, but later, I realized, God was looking out for me. Yep. There's a reason. So then about 2 weeks later, before they were going to send me over to Zell Lipshe, which was the rehab hospital next to Parkland. Yep. And I started having some severe chest pains. And because I had been laying down for about 3 weeks now, because I had external fixators from my waist to my ankles that kept my legs straight from all the damage. Mm-hmm. They thought I had pneumonia. So they had brought in a huge machine, I guess, that forces air into your lungs. So it was a huge machine. They brought it in. They said, we're going to put this mask on you. When we turn it on, we want you to take a deep breath in. It's going to pick up your breathing pattern, and it's going to force air into your lungs. Mm. As soon as they turned it on, took the breath in, it was so excruciating. I was screaming. I thought my lungs had exploded. It was that bad. There happened to be a student doctor there, and he reached over and shut it off. And I thought this doctor was going to lose his cookies. He was like, why did you, he was screaming. He's like, hey, I think she might be having pulmonary embolisms. The doctor says she's got pneumonia. She's been laying down. And he's like, I swear, I think we just went over this in class the day before. He said, trust me, I think she's got this. And he said, you better hope so. Your career's over before you can get started. He was not happy. So they rushed me down because if it was a very serious situation. They said they weren't able to put me out, that I was going to have to do the procedure awake. So they went in through my groin and ran a wire up, shot some dye in, and pretty much my lungs lit up like the 4th of July. I was covered with blood clots. I had so many pulmonary embolisms. The doctor was surprised I was even alive. So they says, well, we're going to have to go ahead and put a stent. It's called a green filter. They put in a green field filter, which catches the blood clots. They put that in while I was awake. Not fun. And then started me on Lovenox shots, which help blood thinner. Yeah, blood thinner to start dissolving them. So I was on those for 21 days, and then switched over to Coumadin. So the first couple of weeks were pretty rough. The doctors.
How long were you in the hospital?
Total was almost just shy of 6 months, a little over 5 months. So.
And at what point? There had to be a point in there somewhere where you realize, hey, I'm going to live. And
Yes.
not sure what my life's going to be like, but I'm going to live. About when was that? How was that? After 2 weeks, a month, or were you?
It was probably about 3, right after I had the pulmonary embolisms. A couple of days later, when I started feeling better, I mean, it totally changed. I mean, I went from feeling pretty bad the week before, so I think those were building up. I was having shortness of breath, but I wasn't really saying anything because I thought it might have been the medications they had me on.
Oh, yeah.
They had me on a lot of like morphine, Ativan, just trying to keep you as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
So I think it was probably about a week after that. I thought, okay, I think I'm going to be all right. Now it's just not, where do we go from here?
Yeah. What about your leg? Obviously, you still have your leg, so they got it. Well, that was probably one of the first things they did, right?
Yes.
I mean,
when I woke
they probably
up,
were doing multiple things all at once, but
yeah. When I actually woke up, I think July 4th was the first day I remember anything. I remember seeing fireworks, and apparently they had rolled my bed down to the end of the hall so I could.
And this was how long after the accident?
I had the accident on June 29th. So
okay, so about 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
About 6 days. So I just remember bits and pieces of that. And then I think when I finally started remembering things was about 2 weeks out when they started pulling me off of the sedation medications to keep me out, because I was in and out of surgeries the first 2 weeks. I think I had 7 to 9 surgeries to try and piece back together.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't be under for so long.
Right.
So my left leg was severed. Both femurs were broke. My left hip was broke. My right leg had 4 multiple compound fractures. My ankle and foot was shattered on my right. So the only thing that was not broke was my left ankle and foot. The only thing from the waist down. Luckily, I had no injuries from the waist up. The only injury I did sustain was from hitting the steering wheel. I had a lot of trauma cysts in the chest.
Okay.
I forgot what they call them, but I have about 28 of them that have formed. So I just got to keep them, mammograms to make sure they're not developing anything. But so
6 months in the hospital.
Yes.
And when you left the hospital, were you able to walk out, or were you
No.
In any hospital, you have to take a wheelchair out. But did you stay in the wheelchair for a while, or were you able going through rehab to walk at that point, or were you still wheelchair bound?
I was wheelchair bound. I was actually non-weight bearing. I had external fixators on both legs. From my hips to my ankles that kept my legs straight. I could not bend them. And those were on for just shy of 2 years to let everything heal. It was that bad. So I couldn't bend my legs, was non-weight bearing. So I went home with the hospital bed in my living room. So I slept in my living room for the first 2 years. After that, I was in a manual wheelchair because the legs had to be propped up and fixated. So when they transferred me from the bed to the wheelchair, because my legs couldn't lay down, I had to have boards under them to help stabilize them, because the fixators ran on the side of my hips, and then a bar came across, and then the top fixator went down the top of my shin. So
were you doing any rehab or physical therapy during that time, or for your lower body, or you just had to be stationary?
I just had to be stationary and let things heal. At that time, there was nothing to do. Just, it needs to heal. So, and of course, with you having some medical background, I'm sure you got 6-inch screws all over the place, and those had to be cleaned several times a day, which is not fun.
Did you have a caretaker, or were you doing this yourself?
At the time, my husband was. He ended up having to take a year off of work. He had to stay home and help take care of me. We had 4 kids at the time of the wreck. My youngest was 1,
Oh my gosh.
turned 1 3 days before the accident. Our other one turned 2 exactly 1 month to the day of the accident. And then my son turned 9 3 weeks before the accident. And then my stepdaughter, Carly, had she was 7 at the time and then turned 8 right after. So
you had a house full of kids. You're bedbound.
yep.
and your husband's taking off work to take care of you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And raise the kids.
And raise the kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Were you in a position to, were you able to, help them with their homework or anything like that? Or were you heavily medicated during those 2 years, or were you lucent?
I was on medication when I came home. They sent me home on actually quite a bit of medication. So back then, you only got it like a week's supply at a time. MS cotton, morphine, Lortab, the muscle relaxers they had me on were oral at that time.
Yeah.
A lot of medication just to control the pain and have some. So I would have to order an ambulance to pick me up. We lived in Decatur, and I'd have to order an ambulance to pick us up every Friday, take us to Parkland to the pharmacy to pick up the medications. On one Friday, we were not able to get an ambulance. They were booked. So we figured we'd go on Monday. Well, what little did we know, Saturday I wasn't feeling good. And by Saturday night, I started convulsing, shaking. We had no clue what was going on. We called 911. They get out, come to find out, they said I was going through withdrawals. Time they figured everything out. So, because I was unable to pick up my medications. When we found out through the doctor on open mic, he's like, there's no way you're taking that much medicine. It would kill you. And paramedics are like, I'm looking at her labels. So they called.
He's taking them.
Yeah. This is what they prescribed her.
Yeah.
Well, they thought it was wrong. So they called the trauma team and, woke my doctor up and got him online at 2:00 in the morning. He's like, nope, that's what she's taking. They said what I was taking if you walked up to a healthy horse and injected him, it'd drop him dead. So the doctor's like, I don't see how you can even function and be awake taking it. But that's how high my pain was, and they judge it.
Yeah.
When you start acting loopy, they know you're too much and they back off. But I would function properly with what I was taking. So when that was told to me, that's what it was. I told my husband, I said, our preacher was actually his uncle. I said, let's get Uncle Jerry over here. And they laid hands on me, started praying. I said, I'm not going back on it. And they said, we need to put you on an IV and get you dripped. You can have a massive cardiac arrest. And I refused. I was like, if this is what that is, I don't want it. So they came over, laid hands on me, prayed all night, and when everything calmed down, I didn't touch it again. So I learned to deal with the pain.
You went cold turkey.
Yep, cold turkey. I was like, I don't need it.
You just ripped the scab right off. Just ripped it off.
I wouldn't recommend it, but that's what I did.
So
that was right.
At what point do you remember did you begin walking again? That was after a couple of years after the accident.
No. They told me I would never walk again. The damage was so severe.
Okay.
We went in and tried to do a couple of mesh on the knees. The knees were so damaged, they said I didn't qualify for knee replacements. Plus, I was 27 years old. Mm-hmm. The most they said they could do would be either fuse my legs and maybe be able to stand up and have straight legs and walk. Mm-hmm. Or they can amputate and we can try prosthetics. my thought was my leg was amputated on the scene. It was saved for a reason.
Yeah.
I firmly believe God works in mysterious ways, and I refused. I said, no, when you had it and you gave it back, it's now mine.
Yeah.
So I refused to do that. I didn't know why at the time, but something was just telling me no. And
So
I'm
you
very
began
glad I
a
did.
process of
Just
rehabbing and
doing what I
determined
could.
to walk again.
Yes. So I did what I could, to try and just walk, stand for so many seconds with the walker. It was so excruciating.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And during that time, of course, being bedridden and all that, I had put on a ton of weight.
Yeah, no lack of activity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, being bedridden and all that, I put on over 200 pounds. I was a little overweight when I had my accident. Probably about 45 pounds, 50 maybe, because I just had 2 kids back to back. But going from about 170, and I got up to 455.
Wow.
So, and, I knew something had to be done.
Yeah.
And
So you went from one potential severe health risk, a major accident, with all the issues that follow that. Now you're at another health risk because of your weight and because of the inactivity, but then the weight prohibits you from being active. It's a vicious cycle. How did you break the cycle? What happened? Is that when, in 2011, when you said your fitness journey began?
Yes. Well, actually, my daughter was the one that got me going. She was doing cheerleading. She cheered for high school, but she also cheered for All-Star Gym in Colleyville, South Lake at Champion Cheer. And she said, I want to be more fit. She's going into high school. She made the cheerleading team. She says, Mom, I want to get really toned. She strived to always be the best. So we, went to Jesse James Fit in Flower Mound. And my sister at the time knew Jesse's wife and told them a little bit about it. He said, bring her up. Yeah, we got trainers up here for her. So we took her up, and I would wheel in my wheelchair, and she would sit there. Yep, I'd sit back and watch, and she'd be working out. Well, Jesse would come up and mess with me. He's like, when are you going to start working out? And I'll just laugh, really? Yeah, like I'm 455 pounds in a wheelchair. What are you talking about,
Yeah.
So finally, he picked and nagged on me enough that one day he's like, so, what, you can't do it? And I was like, no, it ain't that I can't do it. Well, what's stopping you? So, he challenged me, and I was like, okay. And he knew my situation. And that, we didn't have the money. I was on disability. I couldn't afford it. So, and at that time, me and my husband had separated. And so really couldn't even afford for her to go anymore. So Jesse talked to me, and he says, I really want to help you. If you're serious, you get in here, you train, and you do what you're supposed to do, I'll train you. I will set you up with the trainer, but if I see you taking advantage of it and you're not, you're out. He says, but I'm willing to help you. And I was just like, why do you want to help me so much? He says, you come in here every day and watch your daughter. You never have a bad day. You always have a smile on your face. You never complain. I've not once heard you complain, but I see that you have trouble. You don't ask for help. And he's like, and I want to help you. So I told him, I says, all right then, you got it.
The process began.
So
what were those early days like? What was a workout?
Oh,
was it the typical 30-minute time slot? But
yep.
What do you remember? What you started? I mean, we don't need to go through every single, but did you start with Just what would be the first workout someone that's 450 pounds in really poor shape in a wheelchair does? What did you do?
Well, my trainer at the time, Ty, she had no experience either. So she's like, well, and she didn't take it easy on me. She handed me 10-pound dumbbells, and I looked at her and I was like, those are 10 pounds. She goes, and you're 455 pounds. So what are you saying? I was like, wow, okay. I loved it, So,
Tough love.
Yeah, tough love.
Yeah.
She did not go easy on me. So in the wheelchair, we took the arms off. I would do hammer curls, side laterals. I did shoulder presses. They would wheel me up to a cable rack, cable pulley, and I would back pull, lock my wheelchair down and just back pull. And after about 60 pounds came off.
So you lost 60 pounds doing that? And
yes.
Did you change your diet some too?
Yes.
Okay.
They gave me a meal plan, and of course, I stuck to it. I said, I'm in it. So I lost about 60 pounds and couldn't lose any more. And I was sticking to my meal plan.
Yeah.
And, they're like, if you're sticking to it, you're going to lose. And I was like, I'm sticking to it. If I tell you I'm on it, I'm on it.
Yeah.
So I wrote everything down, and finally, just like, go to the doctor, let's see what they say. My thyroid was out of whack, so we got that going. But they also said, because of my mobility issues was another issue. So they recommended I do a bariatric surgery to help. They said, but you do know that is not a cure. That is only a tool, You still have to change your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I've got that,
Yeah.
So I talked to several doctors and decided to do the RNY gastric bypass. So I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do go full blown. So I did the most drastic because of my situation.
Yeah.
My legs swell all the time. I would suffer blood clots. They said, you should have done this a long time ago. So I did that in 2012, May of 2012. I lost about 120 with the surgery, because you only lose from the surgery that first 6 to 9 months. I gave it the full 9 months, and whatever I lost in that 9 months, I gave to the surgery. Just because you're eating very little, 2 ounces at a time.
I've known several people that have had that, and you're basically eating like a bird.
Yes. And during that time, I was still working out 5 days a week, sometimes 6. So when I get down there, I got a membership over at the time was called World's Gym. So I went over there when I'd get down at Jesse's and go sit in the sauna over there. And one day, one of the trainers come over and says, what are you doing sitting in the sauna? I said, I'm sweating these toxins out, Well, how long you been here? Oh, about 40 minutes. What are you doing? Get out.
Yeah.
I had no clue, 10, 15 tops, and you need to get out of those things. Well, I was in there. I was sweating, I was doing what I said I was going to do. So,
so at that point, after you'd lost now some more weight, is that when you started saying, hey, maybe I can walk again?
I was hoping. I was trying at home, to stand up with the walker. Still very excruciating. It was not happening. I might be able to take 1 or 2 steps to hang on to the walker, transfer from my chair to the restroom, or get on the shower bench. But I tried with, help, just to walk. The pain was so excruciating. It was horrible in my legs. I literally could not stand, and I'm one who can take a lot of pain. So my pain tolerance is high. I was like, something's just not right. I knew it wasn't. So after this point, I started having some issues because I had forced myself to a manual chair because I was in an electric chair for a long time, being that heavy and having kids.
So the manual chair, you're actually having to work.
Yes.
Okay.
So I forced myself to a manual chair so I can get more cardio. Because it's hard to just find something for cardio. The only thing I could do was do a rowing machine. And they would help transfer me to the rowing machine. And it was just all upper body.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put myself in a manual chair and start going around stores. Woo, that was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Try and push that weight around. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
So it started off, I went to Walmart one day, so I'm going to take my manual chair and I'm going to go shopping. Well, I made it from the van to the front doors. I had to sit there 10 minutes and went right back to the van and went home. I couldn't go through the store. I was like, it was an eye-opener.
Okay.
So over the next month, every day I'd go up there and just try and get a little further. Pretty soon I'm shopping through Walmart, you know, in my manual chair with the shopping cart. And I was like, I got to learn how to, you know, how am I going to shop for it? You know, everything starts going through your head. Like, how do people do this, you know? So I would wheel right up to it, grab my legs, put it up on the bottom of the cart, hang on my wheelchair with one arm, cart on the other, and I'd wheel and use my legs to help steer. And if I had to turn the corner, I'd go this way, you know, and turn the corner.
Yeah.
People would see me in Kroger, Walmart. Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're doing this. You know, that's wow. You know, I didn't want help. I had to learn to take care of myself, you know. You can't depend on people. You know, the world's not nice out there. You got nice people out there, and then you got people who aren't so nice.
Right.
So I wanted to do it, and I needed to show I could do it.
So when did you take that first step?
I took my first step in January 27th of 2015.
Okay.
After my first leg reconstruction.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That was amazing. So when I had that done, Dr. Malabashi.
What was your weight then? What did you got down to?
Then I was still in the process of losing a little bit, but I was about 170 then.
Okay.
And how I came to meet him was when I was losing weight. I had extra skin, and it was causing issues in my manual chair.
Okay.
So something had to be done, and I found a doctor I liked, and he's like asked me about my legs, and I told him, you know, hey, I've seen 20 surgeons. There's nothing they can do, and he's like, well, why don't you go see my friend? I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go see your friend. Yeah, I heard it all, okay, and I blew it off, you know, and I had some skin removal done to help with the issues I was having. And the studio helped out with that, which was amazing. And then when I went back in for my checkup, he was like, oh, did you see my friend? I was like, no. He called in, put me on the spot. I had to go in the next morning at 8 o'clock. I was like, whoa, okay. So when I went in and saw him, they did the x-rays first. He came in and asked me when I wanted to do my surgery. And I was like, well, whoa, wait a minute, what surgery? Because every surgeon I had seen said amputation or fusion. I was like, whoa, what surgery? And he's like, well, I can fix your legs. He's like, they're not going to be pretty, but they'll be stable.
And functional.
But whether they work or not, because the muscles were so atrophied. Yeah. He's like, that's another story.
Okay.
So I told him, if you will fix my legs, I promise you I'm going to walk, you know. So I was so excited to hear that. Went to, you know, Jesse and stuff. So we started working on trying to fire, you know, when we had been, but I really started concentrating on trying to squeeze muscles in my legs, squeeze my glutes, you know, anything I could to feel anything, because I couldn't, you know. I could move them around, like, movement, so I knew there was some muscle firing, but I couldn't squeeze like to actually sit there, okay, I'm going to squeeze my quad or my glutes.
Yeah.
Or there was no sensory to that. I
You
was
just
not
kept
able.
working at it.
Kept working
Yeah.
at it. Kept working at it.
So I think what I see here is an individual who has the desire, but knows that she can't do it on her own, and she found the right people and the right team.
Yes.
There were people giving moral support, there were people giving medical support, people giving physical fitness support,
Yes.
but they did it because you had the right attitude.
Yes.
So, in the interest of time, we're running out of time. I would like you to just look into that camera over there and tell the audience, just if you're in a position to where you know you need to get fit, but there's this barrier or that barrier, what would your advice be to these people?
My advice would be, don't give up, because anything is possible. They tell me I would never in my life walk again. And being 27 years old with 4 kids, that was not something I wanted to hear. I never let it get me down. I knew one day something was going to happen, just didn't know what it was. You got to have the will. You've got to fight. You got to fight. Is it easy? No, it's not easy. But if I can do it from a wheelchair, anybody can do it. You just got to do it.
Well, and I want to tell you this. One thing that I always look forward to when I go to work out is most of the time Vicki's there. Sometimes you're not, but just the times that I work out or times that she's training, and she always has a smile on her face. And I know some days I see her, she's had a bad day. We all have bad days. So in the last 7-8 years that I've been working out there, I know one of those, at least one time you've had a bad day, but you would never know it. She's always smiling. She's got a great attitude. And I think that mental attitude, everything just goes from there, having that type of attitude. And
Yes.
I think that that's one thing that that's a great place for most people to start. And it's a multifactorial thing. And Vicki, you are an inspiration to me, to everybody that knows you, and you've got a really special story. And you're in a special place at Jesse James. I want to give Outlaw Fit Camp a shout out too, because
Yes.
they are it's an amazing organization with amazing trainers like this. And last thing before we leave, you have a GoFundMe
Yes.
page. How would our viewers, where would they go to if they wanted to contribute to that?
I believe it's called Vicki's Journey.
Vicki's Journey?
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to double check it. But yes, we launched that on the anniversary of my accident on June 29th.
Okay.
It is not doing so well. I need to get my story out there. That's one
Yeah.
thing I'm not good at. I don't like to, I got a lot of pride, and I think I can do everything myself.
Well,
and I can't.
Vicki's very humble, and
Yes.
this is the first time I've heard her entire story, and I would love if there's somebody out there that would want to contribute to this. We'll put the actual link on the bottom of the screen here so you can see it. So, Vicki, I want to thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
It's been a real inspiration for me to finally hear the full story. So I knew it was something special, and now it's. I'd like to say I see you in a whole new light, but I really don't. I think it confirms to me of the person that I've got to know, and now I know why you are like you are.
Yeah.
An inspiration. So thank you so much for being on.
Well, thank you.
We
I
appreciate
enjoyed
it.
Thank you.
I love stories like this, and hopefully we can have more of these in the future.
Yes.
So this is Dr. Hal Stewart with Health and Harmony Beyond the Teeth. Have a great day. Have a great week. Live happy, live healthy, and go do something nice for somebody. I think that Vicki's story really has inspired that. People that stepped into her life and were there for her. And I know she does the same for others. So go live your life, but always be cognizant that Whoever you're with, they have a story, and they're probably having a battle. They're probably battling something in their life. So be kind, be nice. Have a great day. Bye-bye.